Hi everyone, Pastor Kelby here again. I want to share some thoughts with you, and maybe some thoughts that are a little bit difficult sometimes. And I think maybe you've been walking through some difficult times with being in isolation and that sort of thing. So let's talk about it a little bit. Psalm 77, starting at verse 7 there's some really difficult questions that the writer asks here. Psalm 77, starting at verse 7. Will the Lord reject forever? Will he never show his favor again? Has his unfailing love vanished forever? Has his promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has he in his anger withheld his compassion? Here the psalmist is lamenting, and he is pouring out his heart to God with these very, very difficult questions. And sometimes we kind of shy away from lament, from expressing some of these feelings toward God. But I think that it's okay to express ourselves to God, to express kind of how we're feeling. I want to read you a quote from Hunsinger. She wrote a book called Pray Without Ceasing. The quote says, "When healing fails, lament is the hopelessness that refuses to give up hope. When injustice prevails, lament is the protest that digs in for the long haul. When humiliation abounds, lament is the self-respect that cries out to a hidden God, 'How long, O Lord?' Lament bends anguish and anger into ardent supplication. Sometimes it is no more than an inarticulate cry." I like that first description, that lament is the hopelessness that refuses to give up hope. And I think that's a big key when it comes to lament. It is our tight grasp on hope, even when we feel like all hope is gone and we are crying out to God, asking why some of these things are happening. Lament is that peace that still keeps us connected to God. It keeps that connection open with God, even though we may have doubts. And I think lament is faith's alternative to despair. It is okay to lament. It is okay to pour out some of these emotions before God. The psalmist here in Psalm 77, he never actually gets any answers to these questions. In the second half of that psalm, he turns to praise. Whether he has answers to his questions or not, he still chooses to praise God. Now, we may not be able to move in that direction as quickly as the psalmist does. We may have to sit in that lament for a little bit, but that's okay. Express these things to God. And as a community, we have to remember, if someone is experiencing these tough times, we need to remember to surround them in prayer, and uplift them in that way. Let them know that it's okay to express these things to God, as long as we're keeping that line of communication open, and as long as we're staying connected to God in that way. Hope that this provides some sort of encouragement to you. I know that lament is a bit of a difficult topic sometimes, but it can still provide a connection to God, even when we are doubting, even when we are feeling sad and hopeless. Lament can bring us near to God, even when we don't get answers to our difficult questions. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you back here again. Bye.